the Air Force planned to turn the F-22 Raptor into a bomber. A short history of what might have been. By the beginning of the 21st century, the United States had begun production of the F-22 Raptor, the world's best air superiority fighter, boasting a still unrivaled combination of sustainable high speed, maneuverability, and low observable stealth characteristics. Furthermore, the Pentagon was planning a more affordable multi-role successor for wider-scale production, the F-35 Lightning II. However, the Air Warfare Branch had no new bombers in the pipeline after the B-2 stealth bomber was cut short with only 20 built. So the idea proposed itself: what if the Raptor could be transformed into a bomber? After all, the F-22's extraordinary stealth characteristics, superior even to the B-2's, could be useful for penetrating airspace protected by air defense missiles and enemy fighters, and its supersonic speed would surely also prove an asset. However, converting the Raptor into a bomber meant adjusting two key parameters: payload and range. The basic F-22 is intended to contest frontline airspace with its combat radius of 600 miles, not nearly far enough for a deep penetrating bomber that can't rely on tanker planes to tag along into hostile airspace. Furthermore, the Raptor's modest ground attack capability allows it to carry only 4 GPS-guided 250-pound small-diameter bombs internally. 4 more can be carried on the wings at the expense of stealth. When Lockheed Martin studied the concept in the early 2000s, it first considered lengthening the fuselage but found that unacceptably degraded performance. Instead, the manufacturer conceived a variant that kept the fuselage mostly unchanged, but sported thicker delta wings with 3 times the surface area of the F-22's, while possibly removing the vertical tail fins. This proposed FB-22 could have potentially carried 15,000 pounds of munitions, or twice that in a non-stealthy configuration, plus 2 medium-range AIM-120 air-to-air missiles for self-defense. Additionally, the firm promised that faceted pods in the wings would retain the aircraft's stealth characteristics when carrying external weapons. The only major change to the fuselage from the basic F-22 would have been a second seat for a weapons systems officer to relieve the pilot on extra-long missions and help target guided weapons. The FB-22 would have likely ditched the fancy vector thrust nozzles from the F-22 and have had a reduced tolerance of 6 times the regular force of gravity, as close-range dogfights were simply not something a stealth bomber was intended to get involved in. It would have traded the Raptor's F-119 turbofans for the more powerful F-135 built for the Lightning II, allowing it to attain a top speed of Mach 1.9 despite its greater weight. The Raptor bomber would also have carried 80% more fuel, tripling range to around 2,000 miles, much better than any current US fighters, but still short-legged compared to operational bombers. The resulting aircraft would have revived the concept of a high-speed regional bomber, the likes of which had disappeared since the retirement of the supersonic F-111, which, conceived in a period before stealth was a thing, had been designed to evade detection by hugging the ground at low altitude. The only recent design to use a similar concept is the Russian Su-34 fullback, an enlarged 2-seat bomber variant of the Su-27 flanker. In 2003, Air Force Secretary James Roche proposed procuring a force of 150 FB-22s to serve as interim stealth bombers, until a larger new design began development in 2037. If this seems generous, remember that Lockheed's resources were still devoted to developing the F-35, a troubled program that nonetheless promised to secure the company's fortunes for decades to come. By 2004, Lockheed had submitted 6 different FB-22 proposals to the Pentagon. The company estimated that FB-22 would have cost $5 to $7 billion to develop big bucks, but only a quarter the cost of a clean-sheet strategic stealth bomber. Supposedly, the FB-22 would have shared 80% of its components with the F-22, particularly the fuselage and avionics, saving large sums. The Pentagon passed on a chance to acquire a capable bomber sooner and far more cheaply than the $500 million per plane projected for the B-21 Raider now under development. Yet, doubling down on a Raptor bomber would have saddled the Air Force with 2 long-term issues. The first is the Raptor's dated 90s-era computer system and data link, which aren't highly compatible with new and far superior networked combat systems.